So thank you everybody for joining us this evening. For those of you who don't know, I'm Jo. I'm from 10 to 2. We are a part-time specialist recruitment consultancy. Been going for nearly 20 years now, and we're pioneers in the part-time space. We work closely with a number of associates and coaches to help deliver as much information as we can to our candidates. And this evening's lovely guest, Kate, is going to talk you through connecting with your values and thinking about career changes. Now, this can happen at a range of different points in your life and in your career. I'm not going to tread on your toes and start stealing your presentation. So it might be when you're returning after a break, it might be after a redundancy, but Kate is going to very, very cleverly help you connect with your values and give you some pointers and some useful information this evening that you can use to help really find, is it the career joy catalyst you call yourself? Which is
I
amazing.
do, yeah.
So just a couple of sort of health and safety bits and pieces. We are recording the session this evening, so we will be able to send a recording out. So feel free to scribble notes, or you can just relax and enjoy listening to Kate this evening and do all your notes and stuff at another time. There will be a follow-up email tomorrow with some additional information and bits and pieces. We may well signpost you to different areas throughout the evening, and all of that will be noted in the email tomorrow. If you need our contact details, they will also be included. And there might even be a cheeky little offer that Kate can provide you with at the end of the evening and in the follow-up. The chat is live. So if you've got any questions, I will be in the background, hopefully answering any questions that you have. We've got about a 25-minute presentation and then some time for questions and answers at the end. If we do overrun, which often happens, and we don't get to your questions, then we will try and follow up as soon as we can, but please do feel free to get in touch with either Kate or I after the event. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Kate. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you, Jo. I just want to check because there was a message from somebody saying there was a big echo coming through. So I just want to check that people can hear all right while I share my screen. Don't know if the chat is, whether you can do it in the chat or in the Q&A. Just give me a yes or a thumbs up or something just to make sure that you can hear. It'll give me a nice excuse to fumble through sharing my screen without anybody paying too much attention.
Thank you, Charlotte. Yeah, we've got a yes that
Thank
everybody can hear.
you.
I do think that the chat has
Brilliant.
been disabled. Apologies. So please do use the Q&A if you need to
There
communicate
will
with
be a
us.
couple of times when I ask you to just write your thoughts, so we can use the Q&A for that as well. And Jo will also just be keeping an eye on the Q&A to make sure that if any questions are coming through, she's catching them. Fab. So I hope I distracted you while I clumsily opened up my screen. Can you see it now? Jo, can we see? Brilliant. Thank you so much. Okay, so welcome. Jo's done a brilliant job of introducing the presentation, the webinar for today, finding your new career direction. So this webinar is going to give you a little bit of time to start thinking about what you actually want from your career, what you want from a career change if it's coming, and to understand your values and your motivations a bit better. With my clients that I work with, we go into these areas and other ones in a lot more depth. So this is a bit of a whistle-stop tour, but it is a great start to help you put yourself in the driver's seat, to think about who you are, what you want, empower you to make decisions that are right for your future career, for your future career. So if you fit any of these things on the list here, you are in the right place, and I hope you will find some real gems that you can take away with you at the end of this webinar. Because really what we want to imagine is that you know exactly what you're good at, and you know exactly what you enjoy and what your passions are, and you know how you can use this knowledge to guide your decision making about new directions within your career, and actually more broadly as well. We want you to be feeling excited and motivated about your work, and to feel like the work that you're doing and the place that you do it in are in line with your values. Now, why? Well, we all want to be happy, but I read a terrifying statistic recently. You might have seen the same thing, that the average person spends 90,000 hours of their lives at work. So with that in mind, My job and my passion is helping people to make sure that as many hours of that are filled with joy as possible. Now, we all know we've got to deal with some things that we're not going to enjoy. Every job has the bits that are less fun, but wouldn't it be wonderful if we could find joy and be really inspired and love and believe in what we're doing for so much of our time, so much of this time that's taken away from our families, from our other hobbies, etc. So this is what I do. My name is Kate Lewis. I'm the Career Joy Catalyst. Very briefly, I work with people who are ready to embrace and activate change to rediscover joy and alignment in their lives. I have lived this many times. I've had 3 different career changes, I think. I've lived in 6 different countries across 4 continents. I'm a parent, so I left work, have come back to work, and have experienced change in my career and in my life in many, many different ways. And I really do believe that life is too short to not love what you do. So that's what we're going to be thinking about today. Now, work in the past, it used to look a little bit like this, right? It was quite linear. You would study, you would get a job, maybe you'd have some promotions, and then you'd retire. You might even get a gold watch at the end to say thank you for your service. Nowadays, it looks a little bit more like this. It's kind of all over the place. We have all sorts of loops and turns, various tangents. You might take a sabbatical, you might get made redundant, you might take time off for work, you might want to do extra study. Things externally come in, COVID, AI, that shake everything up and make everything really unexpected. It can be pretty intimidating, but it's also really exciting. There's a lot of opportunity for change and for trying different things. So how do we do this? Now, there are lots and lots of things to think about when you want to make changes in your career. And here is just a little snapshot of them. Usually with my clients, we look at all of these to varying levels. But in my experience and what I really want to focus on today, I'm sorry, my cat, who has ignored me all day, has decided to now jump on my lap. A nice little visitor there. In my experience, there is something that is really, really important that needs to happen first, which is to get a clear sense of who you are and what it is that you really want. Now, some of you might have seen, I said sport the Spice Girls up to talk about what you really, really want. Don't worry, they're going away now. Lots and lots of my clients, really understandably, they want to get straight to the CV. They want to start applying for things. They often come to me and they've been applying for multiple jobs and not having any success, and they're wondering what went wrong. And my question to everybody is, how can you make meaningful change when you don't really know what it is that you want or what you really want that change to be? An example is a recent client of mine who, when she started working with me, she had applied for tens of jobs and hadn't got a single interview. And this was not because she didn't have the skills. It was not because she didn't have experience. She had oodles of both of those things, but she wasn't clear on who she was and she wasn't clear on what she wanted to do next. So her applications didn't have a clear story. They lacked conviction. And of course, that had a massive dent on her confidence. She was really doubting whether she should be leaving the role that she was unhappy with. She was doubting what sort of role she should be going for. She'd really lost her way. So together, we got more clarity on who she was, what her strengths were, what her experiences were, and how she wanted to use these moving forward in her career. I'm very pleased to tell you that she ended up getting a new job as the CEO of a brilliant organization that aligned with all of her values. So this work is really, really worthwhile doing. Now, in my coaching program, we spend a lot of time looking at this kind of picture, and this is a bit of a metaphor, and 2 islands. We look at the island of where we are now, which is down in the bottom corner, and we then spend a lot of time visualizing in detail the island in the top corner, this wonderful place, which is where we want to go. And then we look at the path to get there. We look at the risks that are in the way, the real risks, the perceived risks. We look at the different steps we need to take. We need to look at the extra learning, the skills, all of the practical things along the way that are going to get us from one island to the other. But for today, we're just going to think about the 2 parts, the island where you are now, and then thinking about the island where you want to go. So a little exercise for you now. I'm going to stop talking in a minute because I want us to spend a little bit of time thinking about the island where you are now. And I want you to think about your career, your life up till now, because it might be something that you really enjoy outside of your career that's going to give you guidance about where it is that you want to be going within your next job move. Thinking about a peak, we call it a peak experience, like a real highlight. something that you were at that moment, you were like, this is great, this is going really well, I feel good, like what a successful thing, and you think about it, it's a really good memory of yours. And I want to ask you, what was happening at that time? What were you doing? What skills were you using at that time, at that moment that you're thinking of now? What experience did you gain? So I'm just going to give you a minute and a bit to just picture that peak experience and think about those questions. What were you doing? What skills were you using? What experience did you gain? Feel free to write down if you've got a notebook nearby. It's useful to sort of write notes of these things, even if it's just keywords or pictures, anything. Now, I want you to think again, still in that island of where you are now and where it is that you've come from, a low point, an experience, a memory, a time at work when you felt angry or upset or frustrated, fed up, bored. What was going on there? What was it that you were having to do? Who was it that you were having to work with? Maybe not literally individuals. What types of people were you having to work with or deal with that made it more challenging? And what were you feeling? What skills were you having to draw on, or what activities were you having to do? What was missing? Just another minute to think about that one. Okay, you could spend more time on this, thinking about multiple different experiences, the real highlights in your career and the real lowlights, and start looking for patterns, for themes, for the things that are coming up where you're really motivated and things that you really enjoy. And it's starting, hopefully, to give you some more clarity on what are your skills, what are your strengths, what are the things that make you light up, and what are the things that you actually want a bit less of. Or maybe it's not, maybe it's unrealistic to think that you wouldn't have any of it, but how, like, maybe what balance is it that you need? What do you need more of to make those other things feel a little bit more manageable? And it might also started you thinking about your values, which is where we're going to go next. Your values are the principles, the ideals, the standards of behavior that you believe are important and that direct what you do and why you do it and how you do it. So if we are feeling good, like if our values are all being met or mostly being met in the things that we do, we will feel great. We'll feel satisfied. Everything will feel pretty hunky dory. But if our values are not being met or they are being opposed in some way, maybe there's a conflicting value that is not in line with your own, that you're needing to, that you're experiencing, or that you're in the sort of environment with, that's when things start to feel a little uncomfortable and you can have that tension. Okay. So often when you are feeling dissatisfied or uncomfortable or stuck, we use this word stuck a lot in the coaching world, but when you are feeling stuck, it's often because some of your values are not being met. So let's have a little bit of time to think about values. Now, before we do this next exercise, a couple of caveats. First of all, there are so many different words that we can use to describe values. I mean, some people have created resources about values with over 200 different values. And we do not have the time or the capacity to go through 200 values in this evening's webinar. So I'm going to do an exercise with a bit of a capped. And I'm just going to look at 6 different values, but it's something that you can go away and think about. And I'll give you a resource afterwards that has more for you to be thinking about it more deeply. There are lots and lots of different values, and really importantly, none are better or worse than any others. Your values will be different to other people on this call. They'll be different to your friends. You will prioritize and have at your core, we call them core values, which are sort of the 5 or 6 strongest held ones. They might be different to somebody else's. That does not make them better. And it does not make somebody else who values something else anything worse. It just makes you different. And isn't that what's so wonderful about us as humans, that we are different? So try in this next activity not to hold any judgment. Just notice what comes up for you. Even when you see the words, when you see these values, do you feel any judgment? Do you think you should be reacting a certain way to it, and that you should be really feeling like prioritizing that, but actually it doesn't quite feel right? That's information, because we're often told what we should be doing or what we should be feeling, but our values don't lie. Our values are in us, and they're going to be making you feel something whether you want it to or not. So that can be information in itself. But knowing our values allows us to helps us to take more control over the direction of our lives. So here are 6 values. I've just chosen 6. I've tried to get a bit of a cross section of different ones. We've got stability, working with others, leadership, achievement, independence, and meaningful work. Now, some of these at first glance might be really resonating with you, and you're like, yes, that's an important one to me. Some of them you might go, I mean, I get it, but it's not really that important to me. That's absolutely fine. Okay. Also, it's an interesting thing to say here that these are words, and different people have different interpretations of words and what they mean and how they feel. So this is very personal to you. It comes up a lot with things like honesty or integrity. Most people are like, oh yes, honesty is a very strong core value of mine, but I'll tell a white lie every now and again, because sometimes it's against my values, because I don't want to hurt somebody, to tell them a truth that's going to hurt their feelings. There's a lot of nuance in these that we can't really go into now. But again, noticing, right, what comes up for you when you think about each of these, and then how does it feel for you to sit in it? I'm going to go quiet again in a minute. And I'm going to ask you to imagine approaching your work, your future work, from each of these values. So if you were going to be approaching your next role with stability as like the core value, what would it look like? What would you do? And remember, there's no right or wrong. It's really personal. It's very subjective. But what would you do? What would it look like? How would it feel if you had stability sort of at the core of this next move that you made? What about if you did it with working with others, you centralized working with others? How would that be different? How does that feel for you? Move around the circle and just spend a little bit of time in each of them, imagining what work would look like and feel like, what it would be like if you were centralizing each of these individually. And think about which ones resonated and which ones maybe don't feel quite so right. Okay, I'm going to give you just a few minutes. I'm going to go quiet again for 2 minutes while you just spend a bit of time. Feel free to write, feel free to draw, feel free to just think about it, whatever works for you in your brain. And then we'll come back, and I'm going to ask people to share. Oh, Joe, somebody can't see the slides. Oh, you got it. Okay. You're on it. There's also an option here. If these don't suit you or you're thinking of other words, don't feel confined to this. I saw a message come up like my values might be different to somebody else's because of my culture, because of my belief, my religion, anything. That's absolutely fine. What words come up for you then? Don't feel restricted by these six. If other things are coming up, think about those. It's information, it's data. Okay. So, what I'd love you to do now in the chat is thinking about um, these six. Just out of interest, which of these values resonated the most with you? Was it meaningful work? Was it independence, achievement, working with others, leadership, or stability? And which one resonated the least? Be interesting to see the range of different answers. And yeah, feel free as well if other ones, brilliant. I love somebody's written some other ones in. There are lots of meaningful work. Interesting. Somebody says stability the least, someone else says leadership the least. If just do it in the Q&A. If you're not sure about the chat, where you're using the Q&A. So just put your comments in there. We can see those. Independence, stability, working with others. Each of them resonated and some of them cross over. Yeah. It's really interesting doing this work. And as you look through the chat, realizing, first of all, that people have different preferences and different things that appeal to them. But also, what does that mean for you? What does that mean about the type of work that you want to do or that you don't want to do, that maybe won't be meeting those values? Again, this can just be another way of thinking, of coming into it. Like, what does the job entail? What does the role entail? One of them I saw up here was money, which I think is a really interesting one. And it comes up a lot because it's a motivator. And it is something, of course, it's important to us. A little offer for those of you who are thinking about that is to go under, because we would call money an external or an extrinsic motivator. It's something that we can have, we can get given, we can earn, but then it gives us something. And what that something is, that is where the values lie. So, for example, to give my own personal experience, I love money. I've always wanted to earn some money. But when I was 20, I wanted money so that I could have adventure and so that I could have freedom and I could go traveling around the world. Right. So my values still are adventure and freedom. But at that point, they were really strong on my list. Now I'm in my 40s, still love money, but I want it for my mortgage and I want it to be able to pay for my child's after school clubs. So my value of stability and security, they're coming up there now. Same thing, same external thing, money gives you something very different. So it'll offer for you to think, okay, what is it that money is giving you? Because money can only keep us happy for so long. If we're not doing a job that fulfills us and that meets our values, that same feeling of dissatisfaction or unease is going to remain or come back pretty quickly.
I just want to dip in. Someone's made a really good point about meaningful work and how that in itself can have different meanings. So it could be that the meaningful work is the organization, so the charity or the establishment are doing meaningful work. But it could also be that the contribution that you're making is meaningful to the wider organization, be they in a meaningful sector or not. And what is meaningful can have so many different implications to so many different people. So I think that's a brilliant
Mm.
comment, that not only do the different words have different meanings, but different applications of the word, whether it's the setting that you're in or whether it's the actual job that you're doing, can have different implications as well. So thank you for that comment, Caroline.
Yeah, that's a really good comment. And that's just another thing, it's very personal. So what does it mean to you? How is that interpreted to you? Only you know the answer to that. You are the expert of yourself and your values. So yeah, thank you for bringing that into the space. It does also sort of support a little bit what I was about to say then as well about organizational values, to be thinking about that, because organizations talk about their values all the time. What are an organization's values, and importantly, what is advertised versus what is actually lived and breathed in the organization? How are you going to find out about the values that you will be meeting within the organization and within the role that you're doing? Because that's such an important point that was just made. What can you look for in the job description, in the interview process, and how people communicate with you and how they treat you and how they treat others, in the website, things like Glassdoor, finding out about other people, previous employees, existing employees' experience of it, the types of work, the types of companies that organization works with, and the work that they do. All of this provides information that will help you to feel a little bit clearer. It's never a guarantee. You never know fully anything until you're in the job, but you can know what you're looking for, and do the best research that you can. Okay, so we've thought about the island that we're at. We've thought about the island where you want to be. Now, I want to introduce this model to you. It's from positive psychology, and it is called the comfort zone. It's leaving the comfort zone. So we've got in the smallest circle, this is our comfort zone. This is often where we are now. This is the island of now. And for a while, it might have felt comfortable. It might not feel comfortable anymore. I kind of imagine this a little bit like there's a sofa in this comfort zone, and we sit in it, we snuggle in it. It's all really good. We know what we're doing. We know what to expect, but maybe some little sofa bed bug type things start biting us a little bit. We start feeling a bit itchy, a bit scratchy, a bit like we want to leave, right? That comfort zone is no longer comfortable. We want to get out of it. We kind of want to go over to the growth zone, which is the big orange one on the other side, right? But there's quite a big gap between the two places, between the comfort zone and the growth zone. And to get away from the comfort zone, I imagine this sofa, this little armchair, being on an island, and it's surrounded by sea. And the sea is the fear zone. And the fear zone is full of little sharks, little risk sharks, I call them, that are busily whispering fears to you about what could go wrong, about all the things that are standing between you and making the change. And you have to get through that fear zone to get into the learning zone, where you can start researching, you start asking questions, you can start making plans and setting actions. And then that will help you move into the growth zone. So this fear zone is a really, really important place to look at. And we need to get to know our risk sharks. We need to get to know who they are and what it is that they are whispering to you, sometimes not so quietly, that is stopping you from being able to, or feeling like you are able to, step out of that comfort zone and move into even just into a learning zone where you find out a little bit more and look at your options, and then to go into the zone of actual change. So our risk zone, our risk sharks. What are the risk sharks that come up for you as you consider changing career? Maybe it's financial. Maybe it is something about money, taking a pay cut or not having a secure salary. Maybe it's about what people might think about you making a change. Maybe it's the fact that you're worried you're not going to like it, and you'll make all this change and you'll upheave everything and then it won't work out, or that you're not experienced enough. What comes up for you? What are your risk sharks whispering to you Let's have a little look. See if anything is coming up. Yeah, the risk is getting your foot in the door with zero experience. Yeah, what if I'm not experienced enough? You don't know the new industry. That's something, especially with career change, that can come up quite a lot. So I guess the question there is then, what learning needs to happen? What skills do you need? Are there ways to get them? Who do you need to speak to? Are there courses that you need to do? Or are there places where you can like start maybe what level do you need to join at? And is that even possible for you given your requirements? All of these things come in the learning zone. We've got to hear what the risk sharks are saying to us first. Not having enough experience after a long career break. Yeah. Career change is turning out to be as dissatisfactory as the last job. So I'm going to make another mistake, especially at my age. Yeah, it's a lot of pressure to put on yourself to get it right, isn't there? Fear of change, imposter syndrome, I'm not good enough, not getting enough support. Yeah, it's a big change. It's a big shift moving to someone else. Do you have the support network at home to help you as you transition so that you're not having to do everything and that you can maybe take a step away from some things? Again, that's something that's in that learning zone, those kinds of conversations. Brilliant. Lack of confidence, the amount of training that's needed. Right. So we're getting to know our sharks. So then the next thing we want to do is to think about rating them. What are we going to do with these sharks? Okay. We can think about, first question that we want to ask is, are these sharks actually real? And I know that sounds really silly, but a lot of these sharks aren't actually real. A lot of them are in your head and they maybe feel like the shark from Jaws that is terrifying and comes with that really intimidating music. But actually, when you stop and you think about it and you get to know it, you realize that it's the vegetarian shark from Finding Nemo, and it's really not. It's not scary at all. And so then you can be like, okay, we can just put that shark over here. Some sharks are legitimately frightening and they do need to be considered. Maybe we need to take a route round. Maybe we can't do it because of that shark. That's okay. We need to just be rating them and working out which sharks are real, which ones are insurmountable, and which ones actually can we maybe get to know, get to understand, move around, or even get rid of once we realize that it's not a problem. Just thinking about another client that I had, she wanted to change her career and her main risk was the opposition of significant family members. She was really worried that they weren't going to support her. And then after we got to know them, she went and she had a conversation. She had a conversation with her family, and her husband was a little concerned, but wanted to support her. They sat down, they made a financial spreadsheet, they worked it out, they talked about it, they made new commitments and schedules so that he was helping out a little bit more at home. They made that shark smaller, but she had to go and have that conversation with her husband to be able to do that. Now, remember that at any point, you can go back to the comfort zone and you can reassess. You can think, you know what, this isn't working for me. I need to do something else. That's fine. But getting past the risks, getting to know them, acknowledging them helps you get to the next zone, which is where you can start to ask questions. You can learn about your options. You can maybe start doing courses, free or paid for, that will help you prepare. And you can start setting realistic goals to get you to that final island, to that area of growth, as opposed to looking through that fear lens and just kind of being paralyzed by not even being able to dip your toe in. So those are the islands. That is the first part of the route. We're going to move on to questions in a moment. But before we do, I just wanted to really quickly just run through ways that these are my contact details and just ways that I can help you if any of this is resonating with you, if you want to talk about it more. I am offering a 60-minute one-to-one session with anybody on the call if you would like to just use this webinar as a jumping off point to dig into your situation in light of today's thinking. It's £65. for a one-off session. I do other courses and longer programs for people who want to dig into it more, and really happy to jump onto calls with anybody to talk about it. But if you do just want to book in for a 1 hour power hour to really kind of get to grips with some of this stuff and have a one-to-one conversation with me about it, you are absolutely welcome, and I would be delighted to work with you. Also, in the making, I am doing an online course. I'm in the process of creating it. I was hoping it would be done for today so that I could share it all with you, but life gets in the way. But it is going to be launched in June. It's a longer course, Rediscovering Joy in Your Career, and it takes you through this in much more detail, plus more exercises and steps to help get that clarity and understanding of where you want to go and start really thinking deeply and reflecting on who you are, what you want, and how you're going to get there. If you are interested in finding out more about that when it is actually ready, there is also with the URL here, the QR code, here, there is a link to just sign up to a newsletter. All you will get is information about the online course. I promise I won't spam you with anything else, but if that is something you'd be interested in finding out more of, or if you want to book a call, then just scan that QR code and sign up. Okay, questions. Any questions before as we come to the end? I'd love to help.
Thank you so much, Kate. I was lots and lots of chat going on, so I was busy tapping away. Hopefully everybody found something to take away and apply. If you want to ask any questions in the Q&A, we've got a couple coming through. And we can also come back to you tomorrow if you wanted to ask something a bit more personal. One good question that's come through is about the kind of qualifications that you might need for a new career change, and whether you've got any guidance as to how to go about finding out what they might be and how to obtain them.
For qualifications, yeah. I mean, I think the first thing is about research, and I think it's about networking and speaking to people. Finding, my personal experience, the experience of people I have is that the internet is a wonderful place, but it's also a fairly overwhelming and intimidating place where it sounds like everything can often just feel and sound much harder. Now, I'm not saying here that it's not going to be difficult, maybe depending on what it is that you want to do, but often actually making a connection with somebody and having a conversation with somebody who is doing the job or works in the industry, and who can tell you a little bit more about the reality of it, and direct you maybe to courses that they've done or that they've heard of. Creating human connections and having conversations with people, to me, is the most impactful way of doing so much of this work. So using your own network, using LinkedIn, your own network, honestly, like even if, I talk to people and they're like, oh, I don't know anyone in digital marketing and I want to go into digital marketing. And I'm like, okay, well, just start talking about the fact that you want to do digital marketing with your friends and your family and just see what happens. And they inevitably come back to me and they're like, oh yeah, I was talking to them and their friend does digital marketing, or their cousin does it. So I actually have a call with them tomorrow to find out about it. It might not be the people you directly know, but the people who you directly know, the one thing you can be fairly confident of is that they want to help you where they can. So even if they're not the person with the answer, they might know somebody who can help you or put you in the right step. So I think that is like a really, really key thing, as well as the Googling, research, speaking, depending on the qualification, like looking at different universities or different institutions or whatever to do it. I think a key thing is just speaking to people.
Absolutely. Thank you. There's some brilliant questions coming through, and we're not going to have time to answer all of them. One very practical question that I quite like is, how long do you think you need to spend considering your new career and researching on average?
Oh, crikey. How long is a piece of string? Oh gosh, that's a very, very good question. And I think the answer would probably be different for everyone based on lots of things. I think depending on the pressure that you have to find a new job. If you are currently unemployed, you've been made redundant and you need something else, or financial pressures mean that you need to move quite quickly. the amount of time I think everybody should be thinking about it and doing as much as they can to get into a role that hits as many of their values and brings them as much joy as possible. But the reality is that you might not have that luxury, or that, we know that things are pretty tough right now. So I think doing it at least a bit to give you some direction. There's also a case maybe of like going a bit, overthinking it. A lot of it for me is about talking to people. Again, I'm going to say this so many times: researching, finding out, and feeling it out a little bit. If you have an interview and you'll feel what, when you've done this work, you'll feel whether that feels good for you, and then that will help you know whether that's right or whether you want to redirect. Some people it happens quite quickly, other people it takes a bit longer. Other people will take another job and learn more in that and realize that that's not quite right, and then move on to something else. So yeah, I can't give a definitive answer, I'm afraid, but I just think it's a really important thing to be always considering and thinking about to guide.
Absolutely. I think it's something that you almost never stop doing. And as you demonstrated earlier about your values changing over time, so the core values staying the same, but the kind of extrinsic values maybe changing, or things do
And the
change, and our
priorities of your core
experiences.
values might change as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, we have got a lot more questions coming through, and I'm desperately sorry not to answer them all. Um, there are a lot of questions about the reality of the market at the moment, and I did just want to take a minute to say that we do recognise that the market is particularly tough at the moment, and although we do encourage people to do all of the thinking, as Kate just made reference to, if you are just needing a job, just to get the money in, none of this is meant to stop you on your job search. It's just to put a new frame around your job search and to try and make sure that your job search is focused around something with longevity and potential joy, rather than feeling overwhelmed and bombarded by the difficulty of the market at the moment. So we absolutely understand that it is a really tough market. And when you're searching for a job, sometimes it is just a case of needing to get into work. Thank you so much for
Something
your
I would
time.
add to that, sorry if I just have a moment, is also that we would like to have life outside of work too. So if, with the job market being so hard, if you can't tick everything, where else might you be able to meet those values too? Like, what are you doing outside of work? What can you introduce? I know we're all really busy. I've got a 7-year-old, so the idea of introducing anything felt impossible, but it doesn't have to be. Again, the same thing. What are the risk sharks that are stopping you from exploring things outside of work that can tick some of those values too, to give yourself a bit more balance and a bit more joy across the whole of your life, as well as just in work.
Really, really good point. Really valuable point. Thank you again for your time this evening, Kate, and all of your wonderful insight. I know from the comments coming through that everybody has found it really valuable. Please do, everybody, feel free to get in touch with people saying they've got 7-year-olds too. Please do feel free to get in touch with either Kate or I directly. We will be following up with a recording and Kate's handout on values. We will try and come back to some of the themes that have been asked about with a Q&A document. And a couple of you have said that you are unable to read the QR code, so a copy of that QR code will come out in the email tomorrow as well, just to make sure you definitely
It's also
access that information.
katelewiscoaching.com/10 to do. It's underneath.
Wonderful stuff. We do hope you enjoy your evenings. We do hope to hear from you. Thank you for your comments and engagement. And good night.
Good night. Thanks, everybody.